This is No BS Job Search Advice Radio, episode 2500. Yes, you heard that correctly, episode 2500. I'm your host, Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter, and welcome. This is going to be part one of a two-part series I'm going to do about things that I've shared on No BS Job Search Advice Radio that I think have helped a lot of people over the almost 12 years and now 2,500 episodes that I've done of this show. We launched in November 20th of 2010, and approximately at that time of this year, we're going to bring out the second 5 lessons. So this is top 5 lessons, part 1, and then let's see, top 10 lessons, part 1, and we're going to cover 5 of them today, and then the second 5 will come out on or about the anniversary of the show in a few weeks. And after that show, I'm going to take a week's break for U.S. Thanksgiving and take a little bit of time off. So I'll be back the following week at some point, and in the meantime, thank you for watching or listening to this show. I know it's helped. Well, we've had over 1 million downloads, of course, during this time. I think it's 1.4 million at this point. And I'm very appreciative for those of you who joined today and are here to learn those first 5 lessons of No BS Job Search Advice Radio. Hope you find this helpful. Hope you share it with other people. It will give others some useful information that'll help you. And we'll be back in just one moment. So here's lesson number 1 from No BS Job Search Advice Radio. And that is, get clear about what you're looking for in the next job or organization and how you're going to recognize it when you're discussing it with a firm. Let me explain. I want you to jot down on your iPad or computer or a piece of paper and a pen, just write down a long list. And the list is going to answer this question. What's most important to me in the next job or organization? What will I need to see or hear to believe it's the right choice for me? Now, when you answer this question, I want the list to be long, ginormous, and the reason for that's really very simple. What I want you to do is, once you have this list, let's say you've got 30 items on it. That's great. I want you to look at the 5 most important items on this list. Rate them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then from there, once you have that first 5, I want you to recognize this scenario. You know, it didn't take me long when I did recruiting to figure out that job hunters were on good behavior. But it took me a while to figure out that my clients were on good behavior too. Clients meaning the firms that are hiring. And I realized one day that I'd never heard one of my institutional customers say to me, you know, Jeff, we've got a problem. I've just taken over this group and I've inherited a team of imbeciles. And my predecessor got fired and so did hers. And it doesn't take a genius to figure out my butt is on the line and I need to hire someone who can help me save it. Now, given the fact that you're going to be on good behavior, and so will they, what might you ask to figure out that this firm, this manager can give you, and then you list your number 1 choice, and then you figure out a question that will help you with your number 2 choice, your number 3 choice, number 4 choice. Because what this is going to help you do is ask a better class of questions on your interviews in order to see whether this firm can deliver on the promises that they make to you. Now, let's pause for item number 2. Often when people change jobs, they're feeling hurt, they're angry, they've got an emotional response to something that's happened in the workplace that's prompting them to want to look at other things. Now, that's not always the best way to be going out looking for a job. And thus, I want to encourage you to take an evening, take an afternoon, take an hour, and jot down your successes, all of them professionally. Start with the most recent job and go back in time. You'll notice that there are more than you might have considered. And these successes are going to become the basis of stories that you tell. Now, many of you know that there are frameworks to stories, and the most well-known one is the STAR formula: situation or task, action, result. Then there's another framework that I recommend for people at a manager level and above: SOAR, SOAR, situation, obstacle, action, result. And then there's a third one that I think works well in the C-suite: PAR, like par for the course, problem, action, result. Now, what these frameworks do is they will help you organize your stories in ways that are cohesive. And you should do this in advance of the interview. Looking at your successes, how would you construct a story that hits those benchmarks? And again, for staff levels, go with STAR. For a manager and above, go with SOAR, unless you're interviewing at Amazon, in which case you stick with STAR. And then in the C-suite, problem, action, result. Prepare your stories in advance. Practice saying them so that you become comfortable with them and you make mistakes outside the interview instead of during it. I worked with someone many years ago named Perry Newman. He's passed away, and when I worked with him, I heard him say that resumes are for when you want to be the hunter. LinkedIn profiles are for when you want to be hunted. And thus, your profile should be kept up to date and at the same time be congruent with your resume. They don't have to be identical, but they have to be consistent and hit many of the same talking points. Why? Because LinkedIn sells a product to recruiters called LinkedIn Recruiter. And it allows recruiters, headhunters, to search the entire database and reach out to people through emails who they think might fill positions. Think in terms of keywords in your LinkedIn profile that someone looking for you might want to search and find you with. So, for example, it might be particular programming languages or functions that you perform. And you want to use the terms that exist in job descriptions because those are the ones that are most likely to be used to find someone like you. And thus, you can look at LinkedIn at job descriptions there and on Indeed and on other job boards for how job descriptions are framed. Look for terms in the requirements and in the description of responsibilities that someone might use to look for someone like you. And make sure your resume, make sure your LinkedIn profile consists of those terms. When my wife and I adopted our son from Kazakhstan, we had to fly into Moscow, where there was a U.S. embassy there, to get our one-year-old son's paperwork in order before bringing him to the United States. By the way, now he's almost 22. And in doing so, we were told by the adoption agency that we worked with that Moscow had a habit and a conduct that was very different than U.S. behavior. And that is that any parent with a very young child could walk to the front of any line. And when we got to the airport in Moscow, we discovered that was true. There were multiple lines with hundreds of people on the line. And they would see us, and we were obviously not dressed like Russian people. We looked like Americans to them. And they all waved us to the front of the line with our soon-to-be one-year-old child so that we could be processed. Walking to the head of the line, putting yourself in the position of being advantaged is something you should be doing. After all, where you can cut the line and get to the front, you're in an advantaged position, right? Who can introduce you? How can you be seen as a subject matter expert in your area of expertise? How can you develop your image? Where can you appear or speak or be interviewed on a podcast, a TV show, wherever? How can you market yourself in such ways that employers know about you? Because when they know about you in advance, you're in an advantaged position. Otherwise, imagine for a second there's a pond, and there are lots of fish in that pond. And there's a fisherman who throws a line into the water with one hook. And you wind up with all the other fish racing to where that hook is, and all of you are trying to jump on, but only one fish is going to get there. Imagine if someone could keep the other fish at bay while you got onto the hook. That's really what cutting the line should mean to you, is being in an advantaged position so you're always at the front of the line because you've been introduced by someone or you're a known expert in your field. And if you don't think you can do that, trust me, you're mistaken. You can do that. So that's episode 2500. It's a longer show than usual, but I thought it was well worthwhile to give you 5 lessons that I've covered in the course of doing 2,500 episodes of No BS Job Search Advice Radio. Hope you found it helpful, and if you did, like I said earlier, share it, leave a comment, click the like button if you're watching it on a platform that has video to it. Do something that lets people know it was worthwhile. I also want to mention, visit my website, thebiggamehunter.us. There is a ton in the blog that can help you. Plus, you can schedule time for a free discovery call or a paid coaching session with me so I can help you. At the site, you can also find out about my courses, which you can rent or buy, and my books and guides. I have a new book coming out fairly soon about organizing your job search, which I think is a terrific new book for me. It's a second edition of a book that I released probably 10 years ago. About 10 years ago, called Get Your Job Search Organized Now. It's currently in pre-release form through my website as a PDF. The Kindle version and the the paperback will be available soon. So again, you can get a PDF through my website. It will help you. Also, connect with me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/The Big Game Hunter. Have a terrific day, and most importantly, be great. Take care.